Hey, I'm Matt Hall here on this side.
And I'm Andrew Taylor on this side. This is where my hand is.
Yes, he's in the dead center. He's sitting on my lap right now, actually.
It's very comfortable.
And today we are looking at this book.
We are very different sized humans, so the thought of me sitting in your lap is very funny. But anyway, we could talk about our size all day. Let's get into what we're looking at here today, Matt. You want to continue your introduction that I stopped?
Yeah, so this is the art and making of Control, and this is actually how the slipcase works. It just goes on top of the book.
Whoa.
But yeah, it comes with this nice little slipcase.
That's like solid. It looks like a hardcover to a book.
And inside, one of the first things you'll find is this.
Oh no, are we supposed to have this?
This is United States of America, Federal Bureau of Control, supplemental material. It is confidential.
Oh God, so we probably shouldn't show this to everybody.
So this is just a cool thing that came with the book, which is a number of prints. I think these prints are available on the Remedy store.
I believe so. I think in full poster size.
Yeah.
These are fucking sick.
Yeah, these are good.
Uh-oh, I said the F word in the first minute of the video. We're going to get demonetized. But no, these are awesome. I went to actually buy, I think, this one on the website, but it was sold out.
Damn. Well,
I can't have yours?
No, I like mine.
Yeah, you want to keep them in your slipcase on the shelf for the rest of the time.
And so here we actually have the art and making of Control. So this is a book similar to Alan Wake Illuminated that we covered in the past. Which is over there on the shelf right now.
I gestured to it.
It's a making of book that goes into the history of the game, how it came about, and apparently this is not so easy to find anymore. It came out, I saw a lot of people online being like, when is that book going to arrive? Like, I ordered it forever ago. And so I think it took a while for production to finish. And then once it did, it seems like it is sold out.
Okay.
And so
Does it seem like it was limited? Was it like a pre-order thing? Like a bonus?
No, it's separate from the game. It wasn't like a bonus thing at all. This was a separate product, yeah.
All right. I like the red, binding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's totally not in frame at all.
Hey.
Can you guys see that? No, it's that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great looking piece.
Yeah, it's heavy.
It's heavy. It's about 400 pages.
It's about 400 pounds.
And so we'll crack it open.
Maybe they were just being... They were showing restraint with their production. They didn't want to make too many and then have them not sell.
Yeah, I'm not going to speak for them.
With the smaller, possibly smaller production size, the quality is very high.
So getting into the book, just had to adjust the focus here. It is from Future Press. And so we looked at the Alan Wake book, and it's interesting. But this is like the same thing times 1,000.
Yeah, this is a much larger book. I know the font and everything can be different between books, but this seems like it has a lot more content as well.
Yeah, and there's a table of content.
Hey.
You got
some Disco Elysium art right here.
So yeah, there's a lot of concept art here. And what's nice is I believe they credit all the artists.
That's cool.
Which is something that I don't think enough places do.
Yeah.
Just put the fucker's name on it. Come on.
I noticed that. I also find that a little off topic when I'm trying to look up who mixed a song or an album. I struggle with that sometimes. I don't know why.
This is really cool concept art.
Is that a dead Trench right there?
Yeah. It's Trench with Jesse finding the gun next to him.
She's got a different outfit.
Yeah, well, this is concept art before the game was actually made. But
it's just a regular
just like a revolver there.
Yeah.
So
do you mean to tell me that they didn't have everything planned at the beginning of this project?
Shockingly, it was only about 99% planned.
Okay.
So they did change things like her outfit and the type of the gun.
All right. Those are the main things.
So this is really cool. There's mini interviews with a little questionnaire with everybody who worked on the game.
Hey, check it out. Sam Lake says, hardcore or casual? He says casual. It's hard to find time for more. That's cool.
That's not cool. That's lame. I only respect hardcore gamers.
Oh, that's right. We are a hardcore gaming show. If you're not a hardcore gamer, please see the door.
So I mean, we're not going to go in depth into every single bit of this book because that's impossible
and probably,
to do. No one's ever read this.
Probably frowned upon as well.
But yeah, I just want to kind of show a bit of it. So there's more interviews. They talk about finding a publisher, getting the deal with 505.
And they're like being consistent with like the documents in the game, whereas they have like stuff blacked out. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of redacted items in here. And the thing that's really sick is that, like, I mean, it's literally going from the earliest iterations of the idea all the way to shipping it and everything. Like, it talks about the entire process, budget and game length here, concept art. And again, this is not a thing that I think gets overlooked, is like people who just like, people who do the concept art, people who like do like environment art or just objects, and like they don't always get credited or even have their face and name shown in a fucking thing.
Yeah, it's really cool to have them highlighted here.
They talk about the marketing campaign, going to E3 in 2018. It's so fucking comprehensive. This is some really sick concept art here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love the sci-fi design they have for the Rangers and like the frontmen. I don't know what you would consider the guys that like go into the thresholds and everything. The guys that are like seeing action. They're like their armor and how it's like designed differently is very cool.
So they talk a little bit about the Remedy Connected Universe here.
It's actually not real, Matt.
Yeah.
I hate to burst your little bubble there.
And that's just the introduction. So we're in the first chapter.
This is sick.
This is an incredible book. If you like Control, Jesus Christ, you got to find a copy of this.
I would get this just to look at it, even if I didn't like Control. Like, this art is incredible.
Yeah, it's also really cool to see like the early concept art for some of these ideas and how it translated into the game. It's talking about the basic visual pillars. So they have the visual identity here, brutalism, the transformation, the contrast, old versus new, order versus chaos. And so you see like, the FBC and the old house represent this sterile, mundane, very ordered thing where the entropy and chaos is the hiss. And I didn't even really pick up on that like while I was playing the game as like a theme.
The duality of these opposing forces.
Yeah. But I mean, you have literally like a swirling, like oil spill, kind of like messy swirl, like smoke pattern here.
Yeah.
To represent the hiss all throughout the game, and then like just the harsh brutalism.
It's like literally just like rigid, textured blocks.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that at all.
Wow. So, wowee.
Going into more of the level
brutalism,
design.
So good.
It's really cool to see like the different iterations of this.
I think it's nothing short of magic that they can take something like something that, how can I explain this? It's supposed to look mundane, like brutalism and like that very functional architecture. Like that's what prisons look like, but they make it seem so otherworldly at the same time.
Yeah.
I've talked a lot about this already, but like it just never ceases to amaze me.
It's a cool shot of the outside of the oldest house here. You see briefly in the intro of the game.
I wonder what it looks like when you're. It's a main part of the oldest houses that you can't see it unless you're supposed to, in most cases.
Right.
I wonder what it looks like to the layman. Do they just see it as a building that for some reason they have no interest in?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's ever really fully explored. I've definitely seen fans debate it online.
Yeah, we're starting to find the holes in this whole Control game. We're on our quest to tear it apart with our 20 fucking hours of talking about it.
There's a discussion here about building shifts. There's a funny concept art here where the water delivery guy can't get to the water cooler.
It's a long cable.
I think it's nice that the game was able to infuse like a degree of humor.
Yeah.
This is fucking sick. It's like an overhead, like kind of blueprint style map, floor plan of one of the areas of the oldest house.
When we have you see the fire breaks here. Do we know why they're called that? Do you know why they are called fire breaks?
No.
I don't remember. I don't know if we learned that, but I'm interested to find out because that name really stuck out to me.
They even show like the signage and stuff, which is so meticulous. Like the planning. I mean, when I played Control, the first thing I thought was like, holy shit! Like this environment is so realistic.
Yeah.
It felt like a building that. I don't know. I don't even know how to put it. It was. I guess the level of detail was so intricate that it didn't seem like a facsimile of a building. You know what I mean?
It felt very organic.
Yeah.
Like, the thing I kept saying is that I feel like this is what this place would really look like, given the circumstances and the world that it exists in. So
you got these cube symbols.
Made for some really hard puzzles for me.
I love seeing just the sketches too of the concept art here. Yeah.
Oh, what I was gonna
control
say.
points.
This level of intimacy and like to create something like this art or concept book, you get those in larger productions. I'm sure there's many Halo concept books, but I think the benefit that you get with having a comparatively smaller team like Remedy, I know they're a massive studio, but since they don't employ thousands of people, I think you can really get these more intricate, deeper, like just like pull up the guy and talk to him. You know what I mean? This feels like it's like
Totally.
straight from them to the page. There's no like mediator. They don't have to go through Microsoft or you know what I mean? I don't feel like there's as many filters because I've read those books, some here and there from games that I like, and
They feel like they're written by a marketing team.
yeah, and it's like trying to sell you on the like they spent a lot of time on this because look how cool it is.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like here's how we did this shit.
Yeah, I've never seen anything this in depth about a game's creation. From literally every aspect. I've seen a deep dive into like, oh, how we created this system, or like, I think like the ARS Technica does like the War Stories videos.
Oh, yeah,
where
those are
like,
great, yeah.
Here's a problem we solved, and sometimes they have like the extended developer interviews. They'll talk for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. That is like the closest thing I've seen to something that goes like this in depth, but that's all still like coming from one person. You know, having the entire team interviewed and being able to speak is, I don't know if there's been anything like this for a game.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the extent of production usually ends up mostly like a footnote. Like there's one complicated issue that they took months to get through. Like maybe it was a graphic engine or something like that. And usually that becomes like, I don't know, just one line on the Wikipedia page that said like they had struggled at first, but then they overcame it. Whereas like that was actually a major part of the production, but that's not really sexy to the marketing. So you don't really hear that as much. And I think that's really interesting. Like, I don't know, maybe in this video, there's a dot over here that you don't know why it is. And you spent 6 hours fixing that. And then you just post the video. And maybe like, I struggled with this a little bit. So it's cool to really get into the nitty gritty and the why.
Yeah.
And the how.
I thought this was really interesting. The initial idea for key cards was that you would get a blank punch card and actually make the punch key. We thought that would be how you could get keys to lock doors, but it was cumbersome. So
they expedited it and just kind of gave it to you. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. There are a few locked doors that you have to come back to.
Yeah, once you get the security clearances. So we got the astral plane here. Love this stuff.
Oh, and that's another aspect of the diagenic. What was it? What's the word? Diegeses?
Diegetic?
Yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? Where the mechanics. We talked about this a couple days ago when we were filming Max Payne 2. Yeah, I've played. It's where the mechanics of the game are in line with the lore of the reality.
Yeah.
Is that the word? Diegenesis? Something like that.
I've said it twice now.
Okay. Well, you see, you also seemed uncertain. So it was cool that like even though you were the director at that point, you would have all the access keys, you still had to find them because the world was the building was all fucked up.
So there is an interview with the person who came up with the concept of the fire break.
Oh my God.
So if you want to know more about why they're fire breaks and what they are, you could read this in your own time.
I would love to read this on my own time, damn it.
Yeah, great art here.
So much of this concept is by that same guy, Leonardo. This guy's nailing it.
Yeah, there's also Stuart McDonald. And it's interesting to me to see the different styles in the concept artists. Black Rock, Thresholds, the Ocean View Motel and Casino. We never see the casino. I see a lot of people on Reddit complaining that you don't see the casino. Maybe you will. Altered items and objects of power. You got the telephone, the hotline. Man, this is cool. A whole section on the different, on Polaris, but I didn't really notice that the pattern changed to indicate different reactions and emotions from Polaris.
I did pick up on that, but I don't think we mentioned it. Yeah, just the way it like moves and flows and like kind of shudders. It's very subtle, but I did notice that a couple times that it was a little different.
We got the hiss here. Something that I don't know if it's in this book, but I read it recently on Twitter. Someone said that the hiss was just like a placeholder name, but it wound up in like a marketing thing, so they had to stick with it.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, that works. So then that was mirrored with like, because Jesse refers to it as the hiss to
To Emily.
Courtney Pope's character, or is Courtney Jesse?
Courtney Hope, and you're thinking of Emily Pope.
I'm mixing it all together. Yeah. She says that she's like, it's the hiss, or then Emily's like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's call it that.
A little thing about the board here.
The board.
Early
Who is
outfit
this?
for Jesse.
That's a fake Jesse right there.
At the FBC's dress code. This is really cool. So this is where you start to see different concept artists handling different things, and certain people are handling things like costume and character design that you'll see different names throughout here. This is sick.
It's so crazy to me that so much of this, and I know this comes with any sort of concept book, but like all of this art would have remained internal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
all
totally.
This finished, incredible artwork could have never been used for anything publicly.
You have an early version of Jesse here. I don't really love this like
Backwards.
big like scarf neck thing.
Yeah, looks like a backwards hood.
Some different iterations over here as well.
I feel like I've seen this before. I think that might be one of the, because there's a couple costumes that were like pre-order bonuses, exclusive to different platforms. I think that might be one of them.
Some very different looks right here.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's cool that like you become so familiar with the look of a character, but that's like that came through the work of many different iterations.
Yeah. These are cool.
Yeah.
There's Courtney Hope, not Courtney Pope.
Lots of different designs here on the jackets and shit.
That suit is cool.
Yeah, and it's cool that there's like an explanation for what everything is.
Oh yeah. Because that's something that was immediately clear to me, is that like, while I don't understand the function of like, why this is colored this way and why it would have a hood, like there is some reason that would be on those suits.
You have trench here. This is some interesting, very early concept art with like a Jesse character and a trench character.
He's looming.
Damn.
And there's things to derive from this as well, because Zachariah Trench, issue date 2008, no expiration date. That's for his name badge. Yeah, there's nuggets of lore that I bet if you really dig into this and extracted that stuff, I bet you'd have an even larger scope of the story.
It's true.
It is true.
It's cool too to see one of the costume designers like actually like working on the photo shoot here.
Yeah. With Mr. McAfee.
A weird early version of Ati here.
Ati's cool.
He looks like David Lynch to me. I know he's based on an actual person and everything, but I feel like the final look is very Lynchian.
Lynchy?
And I think, yeah, I think that's on purpose.
If you could word search this book, I bet you'd see the word David Lynch a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised. And Sam talks about him all the time.
I like that you got the fish there.
That's just another day for him. Just fish appeared.
So we got early look at Emily Pope here.
She was the one that gave me the most, what's the word? Uncanny Valley in her animations. Because I was like, my God, sometimes this looks like I'm looking at a real person. I know that's not exactly what Uncanny Valley is. But she looks so fucking real to me in that game.
So interesting note to see, Dylan, the actor, this is what he looks like more. He has hair.
Really?
The actor does, yeah.
So they had him like cut it off?
Well, it's not real. So
he has fake hair?
I mean, his character model, they can make him look like anything.
But he's a guy.
Yeah, so I didn't... So this guy was this actor here whose name is escaping me.
His name's Costume Design.
He was initially the lead for... Not initially, but he was one of several leads...
In Quantum Break,
before, I guess they wanted Sean Ashmore, but like he wasn't available, and then he was, and sort of some back and forth. So he eventually became a separate character in Quantum Break. But it was just interesting to see another person brought into the Remedy fold who reappears. And I haven't,
because you said at this point I haven't played Quantum Break yet. He is in the game.
Yes. For some,
okay.
Depending on your choices, you will either interact with him or not, really.
Interesting. Okay.
And so my playthrough, I didn't really get to have him in my game very much. So I'm curious to play it again and have him there and see, are there any echoes of that character, whose name I think is Nick in the game, in Dylan's character.
Interesting. And we will be playing Quantum Break on our I've Played series coming up next couple weeks, probably months.
This looks like they drew this and then photoshopped her face into this and stretched it.
That's what I was gonna say about the Jessie one. It looked the same as well.
So Marshall's got a pretty badass look as well.
Marshall's super cool. I no spoilers, but I'd like to see more from her in future things, but I don't know how we're gonna do that unless we get back in time a little bit.
I like that they were like, well, she's an old lady. Maybe she has like a long cigarette holder.
Yeah.
I'm glad they went with like the more militaristic look.
For sure.
All this shit just reminds me of like Dune or something.
Yeah.
Arish here.
Arish.
There was a female version of Arish initially.
I refuse to acknowledge that.
We have Rhea Underhill, the mold lady.
Wow, she looks like an actress whose name I don't remember. Sorry.
You got Langston here. I love seeing the early concept art of the characters that like is so drastically different, but there's still like a bit of him in here.
Yeah, like the core personality. Yeah, we got our boy Casper.
Darling, I think, is one of the only people in the game who doesn't have an in-game model because all of his stuff is live action.
That's true.
So I remember reading that they skipped like the modeling, just went right to the costumes, like the physical, you know what I mean?
That's cool.
Stuff for the wardrobe here.
All right.
They shot all of his stuff like in a day or so. Just,
Wow. There was like, it was that like efficient.
Yeah. So here we have enemy and combat design. I think it's the third chapter, right? Chapter 3, chapter 003. That's right, there's at least 100 chapters.
Wow, this is a very big book. It's kind of like The Oldest House. So you don't really realize how large it is.
So, man, this is cool.
I know, it's hard to like actually talk about this because it's just fun to look at and I want to read it.
They discuss the difficulty, the balance and anything, like they go into like a very in-depth explanation of the systems behind the enemy AI and how the enemies work and how they move and how you interact with them. A section here on the service weapon. You see there was a sword form at one point.
Dude, I think the melee was acceptable in Control. You have the push or whatever it's called. But I like melee so much more than ranged.
This is a very early pre-production concept from before we had the astral plane. It was exploring a more physicalized ritual for changing the service weapon's form, where it would be placed into the box in the wall in the space, into the wall space, and different symbol variants would be chalked around it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. You have some early combat animation ideas, the VFX for the different service weapon forms.
Some impacts and explosions and stuff. Jesse's abilities.
They talk about all the abilities, how they work, where the ideas came from. The one thing I always want to ask an artist is, where do you get your ideas from?
Where do you get your ideas, man? Like, how do you just think of it?
Terrifying.
Man, yeah. Like I mentioned
I think this guy works at Clinton County
facility.
Correctional Facility.
I mentioned this in part 3 of our I've Played, talking about the Foundation DLC. This at that point in the game, I was finally get the camera in a good enough spot to look at one of the hiss up close, and they're freaky.
Yeah, I liked these guys a lot. The ones in the chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tomasi. The hiss charged.
Those guys kicked my ass.
Yeah.
Also, and I think I mentioned this before. But the initially I was a little bummed to see that for the most part, all the enemies were just modified humans. But that was totally destroyed by how cool they get with these things.
The hiss troopers are pretty badass. I don't think I noticed. Do they keep this eye?
I don't think I remember seeing the eye, but I was also like, my pulse was blown out of my head every time I had to fight them.
So there's a hiss destroyer here. I like the design of this one a lot.
That's so cool. Those guys destroyed me a lot.
The hiss rangers.
Piss rangers.
That is what I called them. And the book is finally getting to the point where I don't need to hold the other side.
Thank God, you're getting tired. I saw you shaking.
I had never held anything so heavy. The Hiss Sniper, man, that's a big-ass light on that scope. Got the Hiss Cluster. Man, that looks cool.
That is really sick.
The Astral
The
Spike.
spikes.
And what's cool is that, like, you know, for each of these, they're actually explaining something about its history that you wouldn't know. You know, it's not just like, I've seen other books where it's like, just like the instruction manual style description of like the enemy, where it's like written by like a copywriter, you know, who's just like, well, you know, here, play the game and write a description, 2 lines, 2 or 3 lines for each enemy.
Yeah, it's like they can shoot a long distance, and if you get up close, they're deadly. You know what I mean?
That's a cool
That is
concept art for a mold-infected human.
I find that, you know, as we dig more into this stuff, it seems like all the best work, just in general, is stuff that has so much to it that you never actually see. That's a really vague way of putting it. But when you make all this extra content and you understand all this extra stuff about the world, that smaller focus that you can give to something like a game that isn't like a large book, it enriches it. It makes it a better, more interesting experience. Because you know that there's so much more to it, and you're interested in finding out.
Totally. Great shot of the former.
So
And
yeah,
this concept art here is wild.
I can't really... I got a glare on my side. That's sick. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, well, I think part of that too is like, wow, that's great. You know, when you have these different iterations of ideas, you can come up with a larger concept and then kind of like, you know, pull it back and look underneath it and find like the more interesting parts and then really focus on those. Because, you know, it comes through the iterations and like paring down and sculpting an idea, you can find these things that you want to explore more that you wouldn't find if you didn't have that architecture of the previous iterations. Because even though you wouldn't need to know about those previous iterations, these ideas are still born from those.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just go with the first idea you have all the time. Sometimes you can.
Like maybe there's one small detail that all the name badges have to have, but that's not very interesting. But because of that there's this other aspect to the name badges that is a lot more compelling. I see what you mean. And then you can distill it down to those focused, more interesting things and make a really cool experience.
So there's a chapter on the environmental design.
A lot of big brain moves going on here.
This is interesting too, seeing the redhead up here and the white-haired, like Jesse type figure.
Yeah.
I'm curious because I haven't really read through all of this yet. I mean, believe it or not, I've had it, I think, for a few months now, but it's extremely dense.
Especially if you were to try to, you know, keep track of all the little bits and blurbs that, you know.
Yeah, and so much of it too is like information, you know, like a story idea, concepts that like just didn't make it into the game.
Yeah.
So it's like, it sometimes some of the information you'll read here will like conflict with your understanding of how the game is, and so it is hard to remember all of it.
Like here's something that's cool. It's like so there's these explosive carts in Control, and you're like, well, why would there be explosive carts? You know, like why would they have that kind of like volatile, explosive material around? And obviously, I have not read this either, but you know, they explore what those things actually are, what purpose they have in existing in this world, so that they're not just the barrel, you know what I mean, of gas.
Yeah, and this is me going out on a limb a little bit here, but I think that when the designers have those justifications in mind when they're creating these things, even if you never know the justification, it's easier to not question it if it's built into a game world and there's like a reason, even if that reason's not obvious to you, sometimes you can just like go past it and not question it because it's like it's put there with intention in a way that does click with the rest of the world, where it's like, you know, you might be in any type of building and see some sort of objects or materials where you're like, I don't know, I don't work here, I don't know what that stuff is, but I'm assuming it seems in line with what they do here, so you know.
So you just accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that there isn't a reason, and you can tell, I think, sometimes in games where there's objects or materials or environmental things that like do stick out and they don't fit. And I do question if there was like Was there a real, in-game, in-world explanation of why that thing was put there, or did you just need a texture?
Yeah, for sure. I'm reminded of GoldenEye when you're in any of the science labs and there's just tons of empty beakers all over. And while that looks silly, that's the same concept. Those
Yeah.
beakers would be there. You know what I mean? So you don't know exactly what they're doing that, especially if you're in like a military place, but you accept it.
I like this early hotline, like, boardroom area.
That's pretty rad, yeah.
Man. See, I don't think these, like, I feel like there's some areas where these, like, big light boxes stayed, but I don't think you see them as much as you might imagine.
Yeah.
Here's two really cool early concepts of Trench's office. And this is something I think is interesting, is that there's a window here. And there's not normally any windows in the oldest house.
No. Interesting. I wonder if that, obviously in his, when you go to the office at the end, like in the game, there's no window there, but I wonder if that's something that he can trigger or make happen.
Possibly. So you got the hotline chamber here. Going through every area. The communications department, dead letters. This is a great area.
Dead letters is so cool.
Mail room. The pneumatic tubes and stuff is a great touch.
Yeah. They made it look so otherworldly as well.
Man. Great. This must have been a blast to draw.
Yeah.
Cafeteria. Pneumatics. The nostalgia department.
It's really cool that they talk about the concept a lot of like mundane objects and how our perception of them can, really color an experience. Like the pneumatic tubes. It's like usually they're pretty boring, but in this it makes it look like it's like cool, spreading out like spider web of like interesting. What's in there? Nooks and crannies.
The power plant. Here you see
There's only one power plant to me, Matt. You know what it is.
Northmore here.
There he is. He looks like he's one of the flying hiss.
There isn't like a thermal filter on the game's camera, is there?
At one point, yeah. But I don't think you see him that clearly.
But like, in photo mode.
Oh, I don't believe so, no. That'd be cool.
The NSC control room, the coolant pumps. And it's cool that, like, I'm recognizing all these areas as we go through them.
I remember them distinctly.
It's cool that, even something that might seem a little, like the pipes, like, someone built that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
You can take it for granted.
And it would have been so easy for them to make this game where it is mostly just like facility looking, functional, what's what I'm looking for? Industrial kind of rooms.
Yeah.
And have it be very bland and forgettable and look like just one room essentially. But it doesn't. Everything looks very distinct and unique.
The quarry and the black rock processing.
Yeah.
Like, this concept art's wild.
The chamber.
Some of these areas I didn't even know what they were called, really. If I recognize them as I go through them. Field training, that was a cool one.
That was really cool. I had to do that like 4 times.
Yeah, me too. The janitor's office.
Hey, there's our boy on
Something
vacation.
that I think they discuss here is that initially when you meet Ati when he goes on his little vacation, you were gonna be able to go to his little cabin and stuff.
What,
But just
really?
it didn't work in
Oh.
the game.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think,
Wow, look at that, dude.
yeah, there was gonna be this open area where you went to go visit Ati, but I'm wondering if this will appear. I'm wondering if we'll go to Watery in Alan Wake 2.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't also be surprised if Ati's cabin was similar to the Ocean View Motel,
Right.
where it's just kind of this place.
The foundation there. Going to the research sector. So I like too that each sector, gets its own chapter basically and breakdown, showing all the different plants. That's really cool.
I also think a lot of this design comes with years of the mostly same development team. Like, they did New York City for Max Payne, again for Alan Wake, but then they more rural areas to flesh out Bright Falls. And with those years of experience and development, they were able to create something otherworldly that still feels real, And I think that really informs a lot of their design choices.
Yeah,
Having all that knowledge of real places and structures.
I do think too, when you play Quantum Break, you'll see that like the Monarch building, the corporation there, like
Are you on a campus? Like a college?
at points, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
There's like a corporate building that you spend some time in. And it does remind me of parts of the oldest house, and I do think like that. Yeah, Control's like environmental design does seem to pull from like everything they've done in different ways.
Yeah.
With still adding new things too, like. You know,
I don't know if a team could come up with this that did not have that past experience.
This is pretty cool. The Synchronicity Lab. They have this in reverse here.
With S-Edge. God, I love
that. Was so hard. That was like one of the hardest battles in the game for me.
She was kicking my ass. It's like it's stuff like this that makes Remedy who they are. Because how many times, like maybe this has happened to you, Matt, you've created a lot of things and collaborated with a lot of people over the years, especially if somebody's leading a project. There's so many things that I know I have, maybe you have as well, proposed, like, hey, it'd be cool if we had this little extra thing, right? And then the person's like, they shoot it down like, nah, that would be a lot of extra work, and it wouldn't really be worth it. I feel like Remedy, like, grabs onto those things and really tries to embrace them with, like, the Synchronicity Labs page being consistent with it, all the text being backwards.
Yeah. And the folks at Future Press putting it together.
Yeah.
The early art for the Ashtray Maze is pretty sick.
It looks more like a crappy hotel.
Dimensional research, all the sand.
The red sand was people.
The Hedron chamber.
The big door.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
When you have to take the locks off to get in there, that was when I had a big moment of like, oh no, that's not good. Maybe everything I've been doing up until this point wasn't for the reason that I thought it was for.
I think that they talk about here, you initially saw like Hedron like in the chamber. You know, there's like an eyeball there.
A being?
Yeah. And I think they decided, let's leave it to mystery.
Yeah.
So we have the containment sector here.
Wow, I didn't notice those flags were so stretched.
That's regulation length for an American flag.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Security. I liked when I went to the security and like found just like a lone security guard still stationed in the booth. Do you remember those? Like guys like this, just kind of, there's like sometimes just like one of them
A living
alone.
guy?
Yeah. Well, no, like a hiss
Oh,
infected
yeah.
security guard.
Yeah, I remember that.
Hiss corrupted. This is great. The medical wing, which has been overtaken by the mold.
That's right.
You see here like a body on a gurney or something, or a stretcher, or a medical table.
Totally overtaken. What's coinciding with us talking about how the lore is so much larger than what we actually see. I feel like any of these areas could get its own game or like book.
Oh,
to how it got to where it is and all the adventures that it's had along the way.
And transit corridors.
Man, I love those transit corridors.
They show here like a house strapped to one of them. Like you could.
No, is that the lodge?
I'm not sure
No, it
about
doesn't look
that.
like
No.
it.
But I like that they could like put anything in there basically.
Yeah.
Like.
I joke about the transit corridors, but they're actually really cool in seeing how they move. Because when you learn about how they, they took all the stuff from Ordinary.
Yeah, they basically extract an entire town.
Yeah, so like how would you transport all that stuff?
Speaking of that, here's like the concept art for the Ordinary AWE section.
There it is.
I liked this part a lot where you did this like Godzilla style fight.
That was
crushing all the miniatures.
So cool.
Panopticon, another great area.
That's probably my favorite in the game. It was so cool going around that spot. Again, like how would you realistically contain all of these objects and beings in a safe way?
This looks like an early version of the fridge monitoring. See, they got the guy watching the object with the cameras on it all and everything.
Rest in peace, Philip.
And I do like, how busy this is, like the tiles and the black rock and everything, but I think they did the right thing in paring it down.
Keeping it more simple and actually in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as I like everything that's going on here, it's just like, I don't know, the simplified version of it does work a little better in creating a more striking identity, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Also, the palette is very restrained.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not a lot of colors going on here, but it still manages to make something that comes off as extremely detailed and interesting.
So you got the P6 cell here. And short section in the back about the expansions.
Who's this little guy here?
Typewriter Man? I don't remember his name.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. He's from some old game.
Yeah.
I don't care about that shit. So the expeditions are something I think was added in the Ultimate Edition. It wasn't in the base game.
Ultimate. Oh, that's right, yeah.
These are fucking hard. They get hard.
Maybe for
they don't
you.
start hard. The Foundation, I would love to have had a bit more of a breakdown of these areas and everything. But
You mean saying in the game?
no, in this book, like there's not a ton of information about the
see what you mean.
DLCs.
Yeah. Maybe a lot of it, I don't know when they made this book, so maybe a lot of it was still in the process of being created around that time, or they didn't know what was going to be final. But, I mean,
It's hard to say.
it can be advantageous to know what the final thing was to derive what would be interesting about the stuff that ended up being cut.
AWE, I do love that logo.
It looks so good.
combining the the Alan Wake art and the control art.
Yeah.
It's the investigation sector here. That's kind of cool, seeing it the structure photographed on the green screen.
Oh, yeah. That's the Fra Maro moon landing, whatever thing.
Initially, encountering this moon lander was supposed to happen in the nostalgia department late in the game. Interesting. And so there is a section here on Alan Wake and where he wound up. So you have
is that his room?
Wake and his doppelganger. Yeah, so it does appear that he's in a room at the Ocean View Hotel.
With the spiral.
Yeah. But I also, I do still wonder, like, how does that connect to the darkest place and the cabin that he's in?
Maybe they're one and the same. Maybe they're parallel universes. Hartman, I'm glad they have a section on him.
Yeah, you see the different iterations, and they talk about the design choices and giving him that sort of peg leg that just scrapes across the ground.
Oh, yeah.
The Shum cabinet. Shum.
I didn't really do a lot of that, did you?
I did, just for the achievement.
Yeah.
It's fun. It was fun for a few minutes.
Yeah. I felt the game was engaging enough that I didn't need to do like a special combat thing.
I only did it for the costume.
Yeah, I did. I think I did it for the costume as well. I like the expeditions more than this kind of like the combat's fun, but I just thought it was good enough. I didn't feel like I had to seek out more. But yeah, the Hartman stuff, incredible, legitimately terrifying. I'm very excited now that we know more about Alan Wake 2 and how Sam Lake has mentioned that it's going to be a survival horror experience. Seeing what they came up with and how actually creepy Emil Hartman was in the AW DLC, that gives me a lot of good feelings for how Alan Wake 2 is going to go.
Yeah, I think that the AWE expansion was their closest thing to like a horror game. It definitely had like a horror vibe at points.
And despite the marketing, like Alan Wake, it has horror elements, but it never scares you.
It's a thriller. It's a thriller. I really loved this arcade cabinet art. It reminded me of like old Namco, Capcom art.
For sure. Yeah, it reminds me of Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah, totally.
The guy in the little...
So there's a 4th chapter here of just like a little bit of extra stuff. So talking about different iterations of the logo design, how they came up with it.
This is sick.
Yeah.
Like, I really love... Like, that. Does your eyes get messed up looking at this? Like an illusion, kind of?
Yeah, that's the idea.
That is so cool.
Different FBC, logos, talking about the design of the FBC.
These are some of the unknown Pokemon.
Yeah, the typography, the different fonts they used.
Wait, hold on. What are these insignias?
So I don't think they actually wound up using most of these.
Oh, okay. This is his own little...
I think initially there was like an ancient language in the game.
This is QWERTY. This is QWERTY format. That's interesting. That's not alphabetical. That's cool. That is epic. That is an epic game.
The intro sequence, which, I mean, this is such a striking sequence in the game.
This blew my dang mind.
Love to see they actually give it some time to talk about it here.
I mentioned this in our I've played, but right when that sequence played, the first note I took in my notes was like, holy crap.
I busted.
Yeah, I just busted.
The Northlight engine, the VFX.
VFX, those are boring.
I love the look of these. And this is, I mentioned this before too, but there are sections in Quantum Break that look just like these hotline calls. And I really think that they built on that idea for Control.
Talking about a little bit.
RTX.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Actually, why does this look worse?
I don't know if it looks worse. I'm sure if you read it, it would make sense.
I can't read, Matt.
But yeah, they're talking about all the different, like, different things they're doing.
What's he seeing right there?
Probably, probably
These guys,
the nude code from Max Payne 2.
Oh yeah. The Threshold kids.
Yeah, I love they show this and they talk about the design of the puppets. They actually show it being made here.
Another thing that, like, when you look it up officially, they kind of just say, like, yeah, we designed them and it was cool. But, like, in reality, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah. And so this was a whole little thing here. And it goes pretty far in depth.
Look at the fucking, like, the iris.
Yeah, it looks like Polaris.
It looks like Polaris, yeah. Iris, Polaris.
Yeah, and I've seen people online be like, oh, that's just a joke thing. It doesn't... I think it's very obvious that the Threshold kids are supposed to be an echo of Jesse and Dylan.
Yeah, absolutely.
It seems very blatant. I have seen a number of people online like vehemently argue that there is no relation.
Even our friend Jordan Hill's guilty of that every now and then, where he's like, that could be a thing, but maybe it's probably not. We got the cast.
Yeah, the full cast and credits here. Credits and thanks. And that is... Okay,
God damn it.
Got a nice slice in it. I don't care. That is the art and making of Control.
That's how Matt got this book 50% off.
No, I had a little extra money and I splurged on it, and I would suggest that if you can find a copy, get it, and if not, we just flipped through it. You can pause the video and read each page.
Don't say that. That feels wrong somehow.
It's book piracy?
Kind of. I don't know. We try to share these things as we think they're cool and we want more people to see them. But we encourage you. I
actually don't think you can get a copy of the book from the publisher
first hand.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure you can only get the second hand.
Well, also I also feel like if the only way to consume media is through preventatively expensive methods, well, that shouldn't
prohibitively expensive.
Prohibitively, excuse me. I think you should still consume stuff. So that's the art and making of Control.
Yeah,
adding a cool impact sound effect, please.
If you like it, we got plenty more Flippin' Thru episodes on the channel and a lot more about Control and other Remedy games. So check it out, and until then, goodbye.